1 2 1 2. Test. Microphone on. Yep, all good. There we go. Hello, everybody. Gia Deva Cardia and all that. Hope you're well. Back in the podcasting saddle again. Took a break for a while. If you listen to it, you'll know. If you don't, you'll know what the fuck I'm talking about. If it's your first time, welcome. Hope you enjoy. Thanks for everybody, all my regulars, for asking me, sending me messages about getting back in, doing a few podcasts, because it has been very, as you know, the past wee while has been constant and just constant news, and it's very hard to get your head around it. So I'm assuming that, you know, some of you guys appreciate a voice like mine, to sort of help you, guide you through it, because I do absorb this stuff, unfortunately, which is why I need to take a break from time to time. Oh, my camera's all wobbly. Let me check. Let me just fix that. Oh no, it's even wobblier. Fix it again. There we go. Alright, that's better. So if you're listening to this on your podcast device, you can also watch this as a video. It gets uploaded to YouTube, and also on my Patreon. I only have one tier, £1 a month. That's it, and you get early access to everything, and everything's downloadable and all that sort of stuff. You also can send me messages direct and what have you. So yeah, it's good to be back. We're going to talk about I'll sort of give you a brief wee rundown of the way I see the way the world has gone this past little while. Sorry, and I must say one of the other reasons that I stepped out of the saddle, although my father passed away recently, just before Christmas, so I just didn't have the bandwidth as well to go through, you know, he passed peacefully in his sleep and all that sort of stuff, but it was a difficult wee period before that, and something needed to go, and this was it. But I still kept my eye on the politics, as those of you that know me know. I never take my eye off it. But it's very interesting. The big thing that happened, obviously, this past while is the Trump the Trump election in the UK, which we are part of, unfortunately. There was an election, and the Labour Party won it with a massive majority. Not so much, I would say, because everyone loves Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, and the myriad of fucking cretins and monsters, I would say, that he's assembled in his cabinet. Not for that reason, more so because the previous 14 years, I think it was, of Tory mismanagement had basically signed their own death warrant. You couldn't realistically, most voters just couldn't do it, and a lot of voters stayed away, resulting in Labour getting one of the lowest votes, I think the lowest vote share they've ever had. But because they were so poor, or because the Tories were so poor, the opposition was so poor, they ended up with a massive majority of 100 and something seats, I think 200 and something seats over the Tories, which most governments would bite your arm off for. But being the neoliberal ghouls that they are, they've managed to, in a few short months, in the latest polling, turn that into a deficit. So if there was an election held in the morning, they would lose the vast majority of that majority, if not lose the election outright. And I would say if you wait another 6 months, it would just be going back to the Tories again. And then because these two parties are so inept, what has done in that turmoil, it creates a space for people like Nigel Farage and Reform to step in. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, I do have many, many English friends, and I love them all dearly. I hope they do win, because I think that they don't give a they openly don't give a fuck about Northern Ireland and all that, and Ireland, etc. And we might get this island united quicker if they do get in. It's just the way it's going anyway. So whether you hope for that or not is kind of meaningless. I think it's just to think what's going to fucking happen. Because these, the neoliberals are so clearly in the pocket of big tech corporations, oligarchy, etc. And I'm going to touch on that in a minute. Then in the south of Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, the 26 counties, obviously there was an election. Sinn Féin managed to steal defeat from the jaws of victory. If the election had been held a year ago, they would have had a massive win. They weren't able to hold that ground and turn that into a win for the Irish left. And they managed to do it partly by trying to appeal to the centre ground, which is stupid. And I'm very, very shocked and surprised they did that. But they did. It didn't work. Doesn't work. Never will work. Don't know how. It might work. Even if it does get you into power, it doesn't work in the long term. Because if you decide to abandon your left-wing base to appeal to the middle ground and keep that as your policies, as your trajectory, once you get into office, you lose your left-wing base altogether, and this mythical middle ground that all main parties seem to be fighting over, and all seem to be prepared to abandon their base, including, and we'll get into this, people like Donald Trump and the MAGA crew are all being sort of there's a bit of a split going on in the American conservative right-wing movement, such as it is, for much the same reasons. So, but anyway, in Ireland, so now we end up back in with the Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil duopoly that have ran the country from its official beginning, which is very, very terrible. And as you would expect, nothing has changed. And at the minute, everyone in Ireland, if you're from here, you know that we've all gone through, the whole country was battered by Storm Éowyn just last Thursday. And there's been substantial damage done. Many hundreds of thousands of people are still without electricity and power, etc. There was one poor young man killed up in Donegal. Thank God it was only one person. I can't believe there was just the one. That shocked me. I thought there was going to be more. But the damage across the country has been substantial. And so the government has decided that this is a fantastic time to go on a 2-week fucking extended holiday. So there we go. I mean, they'd already decided to do it before now. But you'd think, with the country being in a state of emergency that it is in, they would park those, but they fucking didn't. So yeah, more of the same. You vote for pigs, you get grunts. That's just, what do you expect? Ireland, how did you do it? And that's the other reason. And I said this on Twitter, and I kind of got a bit of abuse, not abuse, but very strong pushback. And I still stand over what I said. A part of the reason that Sinn Féin lost a lot of the ground they had, we've seen over the past year the attack on Sinn Féin. I called it out in this podcast in real time. I went down to Dundalk and did some reporting from the protests down there. Sinn Féin got blamed for an immigration crisis that it has never fucking had anything to do with. But they also very stupidly didn't get their messaging right. And they got it right eventually, but lies is what is the old saying? Lies has travelled around the world before the truth has got its trousers on. And unfortunately, they got blamed, and they got the stink of that, the immigration issue last year, which was wholly manufactured. Now, there were I spoke about this in the podcast, there were real issues and real concerns, but they were dealable. and you didn't need to end up giving wind to the far right and the Farage adjacent, Tommy Robinson adjacent, loyalists of Belfast adjacent, southern right wing. Um, as minuscule as they are, but they did seem to gain a lot of traction very quickly, which instantly aroused my suspicion. And it turns out I was right. I know I'm right. 76% of social media traffic on the Irish immigration issue was all came from the United States. So it wasn't our fucking issue. It wasn't our problem, but it became our problem. And I'll tell you that. Keep that as a warning. As a warning for us all. We need to keep that in mind, that is a thing, and it does happen. We've seen it recently there with Elon Musk getting badly in America. They had to call them the SB1 visas or whatever it is, and there's a particular visa waiver that a company can apply for to bring in foreign workers, and this is what's caused a split in the MAGA movement. People like Elon Musk use these visas to, as they claim, to bring in high-tech workers, high-value workers from places like India. And as it turns out, although they do use it for that on occasion, most of the time the loophole is being exploited by these companies, so much so that companies like Amazon were actually using this visa waiver to bring in workers to work in the warehouse. And they were doing it solely in order to undermine efforts of unionisation. So the MAGA movement in America is very fucking upset about this, because they clearly, got Trump elected in large part, as well as a few other sources, Zionists and the like. But nonetheless, the MAGA crew, they made demands. They're making demands, and it's a good example of what you must do with a politician. For your vote, you make a demand, and you insist on seeing that demand met. Otherwise, you withdraw your vote. And now it's up to the MAGA people, and I hope they do. I mean, they're definitely making a noise about it, about Elon Musk, and with him being a part of the Trump administration now. They're making a noise about him exploiting these visa waivers. And I hope they continue to put pressure about that. But what Musk then did, he completely stopped talking about the visa thing, and he was very, very aggressive on his Twitter X platform. Very aggressive. He was telling people to go fuck themselves and all. And he immediately then started the thing about the paedophile grooming gangs in England, in Rochdale in England, and all that sort of stuff. A story that's 10 years old and has been reported on, but he's making out like it's a big massive cover-up, which it may well be. There's definitely still a lot of questions about that, but he was using Tommy Robinson as an example, and then Jordan Peterson and all these fucking people were all getting involved. So you can see how someone with his platform can just change direction, like goes from the SB1 visa thing to Tommy Robinson and Rochdale paedophile gangs, and everyone just goes with it. Everyone stopped talking about the visas and just started talking about, like, Americans were commenting on this 10-year-old paedophile gang story from a place that they couldn't find on a map, and they were all very concerned and very outraged. Like, what the fuck? I mean, don't get me wrong, this is obviously a very serious matter, but it was being used in a less than honest fashion by these people. So we now end up, Donald Trump, the big orange palooka, is now the president again, which was predictable, but the majority that he won was shocked everybody, including him even, I think. And a part of the reason is because of the mismanagement of the previous administrations, going right back to, well, you can keep going, really. You really can't keep going. You can go right back to FDR, But Roosevelt, you could literally keep going right back to then before you found a president that did things for the people. Much like the same as this country after World War Two. But then everything was built up in the late 50s and the 60s, and then from the 70s on, it's been tried. Everything's been dismantled and sold off piecemeal to corporations. And this brings me to what I wanted to talk to you about: what Trump represents versus what Biden represents, because a lot of us who are very disillusioned with politics maybe don't see what the difference is. We know that Biden, the big thing that he did was fuel and fund a genocide. That's clearly massive. And I don't know if Trump was in that would have happened, just that certainly not as bad as it did. But regardless, that's looking back in a way that's not possible. But what Trump represents is a different side of capitalism. And you can see that by the people that he surrounded himself with. The Elon Musks, the Jeff Bezos, and the Mark Zuckerbergs. And by the way, did you see how quickly Amazon and Facebook and all these different oligarchs that were so down with the Democratic Party and their identity politics mantra? Zuckerberg, especially with his whole Meta platform. Identity politics and DEI and everything. It was just all that stuff, which I contend inclusion and equality, and they don't use the word equality, they use the word equity, a different word. These things are all good in and of themselves, but capitalism in a capitalist society, we're supposed to be living in a meritocracy, meaning that you get ahead based on your ability, on your merit. And it's good because it's good that those things are challenged in so much as they are, because the way I always put it was, if you give me someone that come from money and they went through private education all the way through all the greatest schools and the greatest institutions, and they had the greatest contacts and all the rest of it, and they were getting A's, straight A's all the time. But then you get some wee boy or girl from a working class housing estate that's raised by a single parent, and they manage to scrape their asses all the way through on a B minus. I personally think the B minus is much more of an achievement than the A pluses of the child that got private tutors rammed up their hole any time they needed it. Do you know what I mean? So in that instance, diversity and equality needs to, you go, well, maybe we're going to give this kid this chance. That rich kid's going to be able to go and be an intern because their mommy and daddy's going to be able to give them a wage while they're not earning. Whereas and we can see this, there's a lot of this goes on in the music business, whereas the wee working class kid isn't going to be able to avail of that opportunity because they simply have to have bills to pay. So from that perspective, I'm all on board. But the whole identity politics thing never challenged the economy. It never challenged money. And that's what this is all about. You have to challenge money. My personal perspective, if you know me, if you've listened to this podcast, if you know me in person, you know this very well. This is what I think. I think that we lift all boats. We build world-class healthcare systems. We build world-class education systems. Get our class sizes down to the same size as private schools, or the private education, public schools they're called, weirdly enough. Have 15 children in our classes with 2 teachers. See what happens then to the working class boys and girls around here. You know what I mean? That's my idea. Let's build a world-class healthcare system that we take care of everybody out in our estates and out in our communities. Let's build wonderful public housing, which is all possible and all affordable. Problem is, we just give all the money away to the richest fuckers on earth, the richest people have ever breathed. So therefore, there's no money left for that. And again, we'll touch just about that what Keir Starmer and his government did in a minute when we look into this. We'll start with Deepseek, the AI story. But so the whole, when we see the likes of Mark Zuckerberg and them all going bending the knee to Donald Trump and completely abandoning their identity politics principles that they've been skating on for the past 10 years and crucifying people and shutting them down. And I know people do. They're nasty people out there. They're people that say things that, but you can't, just because you don't like what this, don't listen to them. That's the way I think. And I know people can get very abusive. I've got friends that are, much better known than I am. And I see some of the abuse that some of them take online. And they have to have, they have to have a backbone to be able to take it, not take it seriously. But that's what you have to do. Because this is the brave new world that we are in. And having people like Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk choosing whether you can be platformed on the only game in town. You got to remember, I'm a businessman. I run a small business, not this, my music business. And if I got cancelled or something, just because I didn't toe the line when it comes to Mark Zuckerberg's easily abandoned ideas about identity. And by the way, I saw a little clip of the Joe Rogan podcast where he was on talking about it's okay to be manly and it's okay to be a man and being a bro and dude and all, it's all okay. And I go, yeah. Why did you not think it was? And no, because this little android human being living in the world that he lived in, do you know what it turned out that was the thing that changed his outlook? Just taking up jiu-jitsu and going into a jiu-jitsu gym and rolling with manly men that say manly things, or things that aren't just maybe just as dead on, and having to get a bit of a beating and having to get strong and doing weights and doing all sort of that sort of stuff. And apparently that's what changed his whole outlook. And he changed the course of his fucking business overnight. Dropped the fact checking and brought in the community notes, bringing in the community note system. And all because of that. Apparently that's what it was. And it made him question what he'd been promoting. That's what he'd been promoting this, or what he said he believed in this past number of years. Now, why the fuck are we listening to anybody that all they had to go and do was do a few press-ups and it completely changed the whole fucking the world outlook? And why are you in charge of this massive platform? You're not fit. Like literally, if that's all you had to do was go and do some sport, and that made you completely go, you know what, maybe men aren't all bad. Which we're fucking not, by the way. Some of them are. Some of us are. Some of us aren't. Most of us aren't. Most of us are dead on. Right? We'll deal with the shitty ones when we come across them, and we'll leave the dead on ones like me alone. So, we all saw them all go and bend the knee to Trump. Obviously because they could see there was a change in the winds. The whole DEI thing is going to be kicked out the door. And this is the problem that we're going to have now. We're going to overcorrect. So instead of going from just caring about people, which is what we should be doing anyway, we go down the whole cancel culture and identity politics and DEI thing, and we go too far in that direction. Everyone's fed up with it. Trump and the likes of them come in, and now what are we going to do? Mark my words, we're going to go too far in the other direction. Instead of just saying, yes, we care about you, just looking after people, be you trans or gay or black or white or straight or male or female or whatever, just caring about you. We're going to go too far the other way. And that's what's going to happen now. I predict that. Watch for that now. Next couple of years, we're going to see it's going to be okay to be cruel to. Hopefully not, but I hope I'm wrong. But it's going to be okay to be cruel to trans people again. People who are the most marginalised people in our fucking society. And it's not their fucking fault that a load of assholes have been politicised their fucking issues to benefit themselves and confuse us. We build a world-class healthcare system. That's what we do. And we look after everybody. Old, young, trans, straight, gay, doesn't matter. No one cares. You go into the hospital, you're looked after. And now we end up with Trump and we're going to overcorrect. And I think that that's what's going to happen now. That's going to be the big thing. I hope I'm wrong. I'm wrong about many a thing. But anyway, so there we go. I think I kind of hit my marks. Oh, no, I didn't. I wanted to get to the whole thing. What Trump represents within capitalism. And I got to thank my internet daddy, Chris Hedges, for giving me this insight. This is why Biden represents corporatism, the corporate wing of capitalism, the corporations, Wall Street, etc., etc., etc. Trump represents the oligarchs. So that's what this is. This is now, that election represented a battle between corporate capitalism and oligarchy. Right? And obviously the oligarchy won. And you can see that by the people that Trump has surrounded himself with. Miriam Adelson, billionaire S. Zuckerberg, billionaire. Jeff Bezos, billionaire. Elon Musk, billionaire. Vivek Ramaswamy, billionaire, although I think he's out. He's just full of billionaires. These are oligarchs, and that's what they're representing now. And that's what the difference was. That's what the only difference was. Literally the only difference. And you can see that the Biden corporate capitalism represented, it's called rentier capitalism. So they just want to put in things like privatize public services and put in toll booths. That's their idea thing. And that can be represented by the disaster of the LA fires. I'm going to read an article about that from a different perspective because I'm sure you've heard a lot about it. Well, excuse me. The LA fire situation where the reservoir that was supposed to be filled with something like 170 million gallons of water was emptied. There were hundreds and hundreds of fire hydrants not working. There was 100 fire trucks in the LA County area that were actually in the repair shop being fixed, even though they knew this fire was coming. The LA County Fire Department don't own any of those planes. None of those planes that scoop up the water. They rent those from Canada. They get those from Canada. They don't have those. Richest country in the world. California, if it was a country on its own, would be the 6th richest economy on planet Earth. And they don't have those planes. They rent them from somewhere else. So that's what the Biden administration, in a little nutshell, sort of represents. They represent the degradation of public services, the selling off, the putting on a toll. Public money builds a motorway. Corporate capitalism comes and puts a toll booth on it, and they're allowed to do it. So that's they empty the reservoir. They let the fire trucks break and don't repair them. They sell off their airplanes and rent them that twice a year that they need instead of keeping them maintained and ready to go in a moment's notice. That's what they represent. And then the Donald Trump side of things comes in with the oligarchs. They want to control everything. They literally make the decisions. They don't get smarter people beneath them to make the decision. So Although you're the rich guy that maybe control, you hire someone to, they don't want that. They're in control of everything. They're the oligarchs. Both are as bad as each other, in my opinion. I don't think I'm not here simping for one over the other. I think they're both fucking monstrous. So there we go. So what we're going to do now, finishing on that with oligarchs and all the rest of it, we're going to talk about this. Oh, where's it gone? There. So, we know that there's a thing called AI. The big one was called ChatGPT. That's probably the one that most of us know about. But there are many, many others. And it was supposed to start out as an open source thing. It was always going to be free. That was never. Whenever you, like, so there's a person on the screen there. If you're listening to this, you can see it. Or if you're listening to this, I'll just tell you, there's a picture of a guy on the screen called Sam Altman. And he was a part of they call them the PEP. I think this is right, the PayPal mafia. So people like that. Elon Musk was involved in that, and they were going to develop this AI and just give it away and all the rest of it. And of course, that didn't fucking happen. They got much funding and everything else, and they didn't do that. But they built their ChatGPT, and it was kind of remarkable. I used it once or twice to do bios, because I hate writing bios about myself, but you know, the music and all of that. You got, you know, how do you do it? It is really cringeworthy. Anybody that's ever had to do it knows it, how horrible it is. So I tried it once or twice with that, and it was really, really good. It was a bit wanky in parts, but you just cut that bit out. You just edit it and make it a bit better. But it gives you, if nothing, it gives you a good starting point. So the problem is now, what you have to understand is AI, much like the Industrial Revolution, industry promised that what this was going to do was unburden humans of labour. Robots coming into the factory then in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. Well, not the 50s, but after that. But robots coming into the factory would make the labour easier for the human. Not so burdensome and not so monotonous. The way you see this in your day-to-day life is when you go to the shop and you've got the checkout where you do the scanning yourself. You know, these machines are going to help you. Well, if you've noticed that from the first one went in a number of years ago to today, there's now no one on the checkout. So those things represent jobs lost. So that's exactly what this AI is. It's just, it gets presented as a helpful tool, but what it's doing is putting people out of work. And in order to just get money to the oligarchy. That's what these people are. Sam Altman, oligarch, right? So you see this, the people that are going to lose, who's going to lose their jobs? Graphic designers, coders, editors, book editors, things like that. People that write ad copy, things like that. In fact, a lot of the websites that you probably get clickbaited to. So here in Ireland, like, you've got Belfast Live and all that, and you go and it's a 2-paragraph article that you have to scan through 1.5 miles of adverts to read the bloody thing, and you don't get much information in there anyway. That's all AI. No human does that. If they do, they should be ashamed of themselves, because they could be replaced with a calculator. But so that's what that represents. Now, all the big companies, as you can see, so I'm going to read this. So overnight, literally overnight, one day last week, a Chinese company released into the world a thing called Deepseek AI. It's free. And it has completely destroyed the entire AI market. So I'll read this to you. Have a little listen. China destroyed Silicon Valley. They built an AI model that beats OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, Google and Meta, and it only cost them 6 million. ChatGPT, OpenAI, cost 17.9 billion. Now, think about that. 6 million versus 17.9 billion. And here's how Deepseek is changing AI and why Sam Altman, who's the ChatGPT guy, and the US government are worried. I would go so far as to say they have fucking shit themselves. And this is why. The story starts with an unexpected player, High Flyer Quant, an 8 billion Chinese hedge fund. They launched Deepseek with one goal: solve the mystery of AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, with curiosity. Solve the mystery of AGI with curiosity. Unlike OpenAI's detailed plans, unlike OpenAI's detailed plans, Deepseek stayed secretive, but they were about to change AI forever. Their model had 3 big breakthroughs: beat GPT-4 and Claude in an advanced maths test, so those are both AI engines, outperformed Meta's Llama in reasoning tasks, and dominated coding competitions with bug detection. Now, if you know anybody that is a coder for a living, bug detection is a big part of it, if not the biggest. While US giants spent billions, Deepseek did it with scraps. The AI industry faced 3 big challenges. The US banned China from advanced NVIDIA H100 chips, the microprocessors. Export controls limited computing power for China. And tech transfer rules were strict. But Deepseek turned these challenges into advantages. So tech transfer is what the technology transfer, so sending it to China, let them use it. You just can't do that stuff because it's seen as, it's best for you to keep that in house in your country. You have a technological advantage. Your country invented it, your people invented it, so you get to exploit it. But Deepseek turned these challenges into advantages. Their technical genius changed everything. They mastered 8-bit floating point trading, while the US still used FP16. Now, what that means is, so use 16-bit or 24-bit computing or whatever it is. So you think you got 8-bit, right? And so say you use 16-bit, that's double, isn't it? No, it's fucking multiples of that again. Right? Say you use 24-bit, it's multiples of multiples of multiples again. So the space and the technology you need to avail of to process in 64-bit versus 8-bit is fucking massive. And if you ever do video editing or anything like that, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you do audio editing as I do, you'll know what I'm talking about. The difference between 8-bit, 16-bit, 24-bit, 48 kilohertz versus 48,000 kilohertz and 44,000 kilohertz, etc. It's all it's not just double, it's multiples of that again. That's the way it works. So they mastered 8-bit floating point trading. FPT is what that's called. Well, the US still use 16. They built stable mixture of expert models. They built a stable mixture of expert models, others couldn't, and they did it all with cheaper H800 GPUs, general processing units. Silicon Valley's edge disappeared overnight. The cost comparison is staggering. Deepseek spent $5.6 million total. OpenAI spends $5 billion a year. Google, $50 billion on infrastructure. Microsoft, $13 billion on OpenAI investment. And they proved the billions aren't necessary. So here's play this little video here explaining that as well. That should have.
But it wasn't a new launch from OpenAI or model announcement from Anthropic. This one was built in the East by a Chinese research lab called Deepseek. And the details behind its development stunned top AI researchers here in the US. First, the cost. The AI lab reportedly spent just $5.6 million to build Deepseek version 3. Compare that to OpenAI, which is spending $5 billion a year. And Google, which expects capital expenditures in 2024 to soar to over $50 billion.
Not
And then
anymore.
there's Microsoft that shelled out more than $13 billion just to invest in OpenAI. But even more stunning, how Deepseek's scrappier model was able to outperform the lavishly funded American ones.
To see the DeepSeek new model, it's super impressive in terms of both how they have really effectively done an open source model that does what is this inference time compute, and it's super compute efficient.
It beat Meta's Llama, OpenAI's GPT-4o, and Anthropic's Claude Sonnet 3.5 on accuracy on wide-ranging tests, a subset of 500 math problems, an AI math evaluation, coding competitions, and a test of spotting and fixing bugs in code.
So, that's the other thing. It's open source as well. So they've just given it out to the world. Now, there is a repercussion. I'll get to that in a second. The repercussion is fucking beautiful. Beautiful. So, on with this Twitter thread. That's what I'm reading from, by the way, for those of you that are listening rather than watching. Their breakthroughs amazed experts with their better stability, smarter data use, and innovative training designs. They achieved in 60 days what others took 6 months to accomplish. Even Sam Altman couldn't ignore it. And Sam Altman calls DeepSeek R1 impressive, etc., etc. Well, of course, that's what he said. The implications are huge. Developers are switching to DeepSeek. The US chip ban made China more efficient. Open source is overtaking closed systems. AI costs are dropping by 30 times. But here's the real game changer. DeepSeek's plan is smart. They made everything open source, priced APIs at 10 cents per million tokens, and let developers create freely. APIs at 10 cents per million tokens. I don't know what that means. Maybe that's for developers to have a go. Yeah, sounds about right. This bold move challenged the US AI monopoly, all based on one key idea. They proved 3 industry myths wrong. You don't need top chips to compete. Billions in funding can hold you back. Constraints drive innovation. Numbers don't lie. Trained on 14.8 trillion tokens, used to do it. Right, that's too wonky for even me to understand. Eric Schmidt has said China has caught up in a way that is remarkable. Time will tell if US companies can adapt. Right? So, $5.6 million versus $100 billion and counting, right? It's better, it's more efficient. It's a great saying, necessity is the mother of invention, right? So they didn't have the super high-end NVIDIA chips. They had to use something else, and they did it better, faster, cheaper, more efficient. Does this remind you of anything? And this is a part of the whole sanction. The reason that China isn't allowed these chips is because of sanctions that the United States has on fucking nearly every country in the world now, by all reckoning. Sanctions don't work. They harm the sanctioner as well. And this is an example of it. China just went, fuck it, we have to do this. And they did it. And they're doing it constantly. Like, the Chinese electric cars are far better than anything in the West. Anything in the West. And they're cheaper. I can't remember the brand. It's MDP or HPV or fucking RUC or something. I don't know. There's a 3-letter acronym is the brand for these Chinese car company, and apparently they're blowing all Western manufacturers out of the water. Cheaper, more efficient, betterer, and all that sort of stuff. And that's when you put people that are genius. All people are genius. Chinese in particular, obviously, but all people have got it. It's all there. We all come from the same place. But that's what you end up. Now, what has happened is the stock market. This is the whiplash from this. The stock market is in free fall after China released the new AI platform DeepSeek. 1 trillion has been wiped out as the Nasdaq plunges 4% amid growing panic that China is winning the AI race. And then, as this was from yesterday. It's now down. 20 minutes later, the guy's going, it's now down 13%. And panic, 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 panic. Right? One company, Nvidia, that owns that chip that they're talking about, they're the top microprocessor chip manufacturer in the world. Nvidia sheds almost 600 billion in market capital. The biggest one-day loss in the United States history. The biggest one-day loss in United States history. And then the Surfs, this is from a Twitter account called the Surfs. This didn't happen because Deepseek attacked Nvidia. It happened because you allowed billionaires to convince you that AI hype was real and only achievable through endless scaling of processor farms that only Nvidia could provide. The money walked as soon as the lie was exposed. And that's the fucking deal right there. It was a pyramid scheme. The whole thing is a fucking con game. If China can come out and make Deepseek for pennies by comparison, then clearly that it was all hype. Because as soon as someone was able to do it, it all went. And it was all based on the fact that Nvidia thought they were the only ones that had access to it through their microchip processing capability. And they were the gatekeepers. They were the ones that could provide their buddies, Google, Meta, OpenAI, etc., with the technology, Microsoft, with the technology that they needed to build these engines. Wasn't true. And the Chinese figured it out. And this is the other thing as well. If you're an environmentalist, as I do, as myself, these data processing centers, which is what these are massively damaging. They use up huge resources, water and electricity, for all that are supposed to be there for the use of the public. So you want to put people out of work. You're damaging the environment and you're creating more fucking oligarchs. And then someone said to me the other day, well, as the Chinese government, not, if you're putting people out of work, have they not just done worse? That genie was out of the bottle anyway. The Chinese didn't let that one out. I mean, it's fucking well and truly out now. The only thing, the barrier to entry was financial with this. So normally whenever you see a new technology or new thinking, new ideas that comes out that you could say that are world class, so are completely different. Like the movie, they start making movies. You get the movie industry. The barrier to entry is huge because you've got to buy the technology, the cameras, the people, the crew, the lights, the place, the script, and it's all very expensive. Which is why you need things like big, massive movie studios. But eventually, the barrier to entry comes down. If you wanted to go and record an album 40 years ago, it's going to cost you a lot of money because tape was expensive. You have to go to a studio, you have to pay an engineer, and even going doing a one-day demo was really, really expensive. But eventually the barrier to entry comes down, the technology improves, and now you can basically, if you're so inclined, one microphone, one instrument, one voice, and a laptop, and you can record a song. And a good song too. And lots of good songs have been done that way. So the barrier to entry comes down, but it takes time. Right? This is overnight. This has been wiped out. It's like somebody invented. It's like somebody invented the 8-track tape machine. No, I'll give you a better example. It's like somebody invented the film camera on a Monday, and on Wednesday, somebody dropped an iPhone on the latest iPhone on the table. 16 Pro Max or whatever it is. This is like that hand rolly thing that makes that noise. Somebody invented that on the Monday, and then Wednesday, boom, iPhone 16. That's what's happened here. And in the sense that not that the technology has not the technology. It's not about the technology. It's about what it's done to the potential market for those cameras and the lights and the studios and everything that was going to be a part of that growth for the next 100 years. It's all gone. And that's what this money loss is representing right now. That was all projection. All that investment is projection. They're going, in 10 years we're going to have this, in 10 years we're going to have that, in 20 years it's going to be this, we're going to have this, we're going to have that. It's all gone. Because they can't, it's not stable. It's disrupted. And I do think I do find it particularly delicious. Because these guys go into, disrupt and break stuff. That was always their kind of, and now it's happened to them. And I think it's fantastic. And now, this is in conjunction, and this is what's extra delicious. Just before Joe Biden left office, he brought in a TikTok ban on the grounds, and I Googled this, I have this ready for you. So here it is on the screen. Put that away, put that up. There. I Googled it. Why did TikTok get banned? There it is. Oh, why did the AI bit go away? Oh, for God's sake. AI overview. Why did TikTok get banned? TikTok is currently facing potential ban in the United States, primarily due to national security concerns, with the main worry that the Chinese government could access user data from the app. You can buy the data. You can buy it's on the open market. You can buy the fucking data. There are people called data brokers. Company owned by ByteDance, a Chinese company, potentially using it for intelligence purposes. This concern has led to a legislation ban requiring ByteDance to sell TikTok to a US-based company or face a ban. Now, so that they banned it for about a day and a half, and then they Donald Trump came in and get it back out. So they're still looking to ban it, to sell it. Sorry, not to ban it, to sell it to an American company. There's various people have put themselves forward as a new potential majority share owner in the company. Now, it's all bullshit. The reason that the ban came into place, there's two reasons. One, the average American, by the way, 170 million Americans use TikTok. That's fucking huge. That's like half the country. Far and away the biggest social media platform in the world, but definitely in America. Americans were finding out about what was going on in Palestine and Gaza, and that clearly was never going to fly. And also, there's another one. I spoke about it on a podcast a while back. Another reason was because TikTok was mopping up all the ad revenue off the legacy the legacy platforms, Google, Meta, Microsoft, etc. All those, well, Google and Meta being the big two, but all the other social media platforms were getting their eyes wiped by TikTok because TikTok was the biggest. It's where people were doing most of their business. So that's where the ads. That's sorry, where people were putting their eyeballs. So that's where the ads went. That's how advertising works. No one's looking at you, they won't advertise with you. So they were getting their eyes wiped. Mark Zuckerberg, I remember a year or two ago, going to lobby to get TikTok sort of sorted out. And this is what's happened. So for those two reasons, but this is what's happened, and this is absolutely brilliant. Instead of what did they think Americans were going to do? They think they were just going to stop using social media, which is maybe not a bad idea. But of course they went and found an alternative. So what did they find? We hear this. Red Note is a social media app that combines shopping, visual storytelling, and social networking. It's also known as Xiao Hong Shu, which translates to Little Red Book in Chinese. So the Chinese Communist Party manifesto, Little Red Book, right? That's what it. So it's another version of TikTok. My daughter downloaded it, and she fucking loves it. Now, so what has happened? the American government, in an attempt to stop TikTok apparently being infiltrated by the Chinese government as a national security threat, which was, again, which I've illustrated is complete fucking bullshit. It was through the Zionist lobby to stop Americans finding out about Israel, Gaza, and also the legacy social media companies were losing ad revenue. And lots of it, lots and lots of it, they were losing it. It was all going to TikTok. Most of it was going to TikTok. So they banned it. So the Americans went to Red Note. And what do you think happened on Red Note? They were hearing directly from Chinese people, because it's a Chinese app for Chinese people. But one of the countries that you can register from is the United States, right? They were talking directly to Chinese people, and they were finding out the truth about Chinese life. And the Americans are finding out that the Chinese people's lives are better than theirs. So I'm going to play you some audio. This is video. I'm going to play you some audio and let you just listen to these people.
What the?
You're going to love this. This is delicious. So these are Red Note users. This is like, they've been using the app for 3 days, and they go and they make these videos, and someone stitched all this stuff together.
What the fuck, America?
Oh my God.
I've been on Red Note for a few days, and I'm humbled. As an American, I'm very humbled.
China has public school for college. Guess how much it is? Wrong. $650 American per year.
We have been fed so much bullshit. You really need to go and sign up for Red Note. Just go and peruse the site. It's mind-blowing.
Our government, quite frankly, does not fuck with us. And we knew this. We knew this. I knew this. You knew this. But being on the Redbook app is putting it into visual perspective.
Did you know in China that 95% of their population own their homes? Did you know in China that they have almost completely eradicated homelessness? It is 0.18% if you want to be exact. Did you know in China that there are no credit checks or credit scores? Did you know in China that law school is under $800 a year? Did you know that the people in China thought it was made up that the children here in the United States, well, the ones that can afford it, need to purchase a bulletproof book bag? Did you know that the people in China think that it's so wild that us Americans feel like we are truly free because we have the right to have opinions, but we don't have the right to make any choices?
Then I picked him up from school. Y'all, when I say Red Note app is the new Skibbity toilet, I'm not even joking.
I don't know what that
What
means.
do you mean that the first thing that Democrats and Republicans agree on is making our lives more difficult?
Have you seen how many politicians have bought stock in Meta since this TikTok ban has started? Fucking wild.
It's not about TikTok. It's the fact that Republicans and Democrats across all legislative branches can expeditiously and unanimously pull together like never before, and probably never again, to streamline legislation banning a social media app while completely ignoring everything important to us.
Of our elected officials just gaslighting the shit out of us, you guys. And it's so frustrating, and I don't know what to do.
Chatting with a new friend in China, and their law schools are $798 per year, which just makes me feel so angry because I have like $450,000 in debt just to go to law school. And I'm explaining this extremely fucking bonkers system that we have, and I'm like, this is a slave contract.
Because if you go on Red Note, you'll realize how garbage America really is. They was in the comments of people's posts asking them, y'all really gotta work 2 jobs? Y'all healthcare really not free? We're in hell. We're in hell. You don't wanna know that.
A Chinese person on Xiaohongshu said Americans think they are free because they get to have opinions, but they don't get to have choices.
我们只想注定是sam sang.
This guy singing the fucking.
Could you lay on shout?
So, you get the point, right? This guy, he sings this whole song in fucking Chinese. He's been on the Chinese Red Note app for a few days, and this is a fucking thing. Fucking brilliant. But, and that's the other thing. They're actually, so Chinese Red Note, Luigi Mangione, that's another thing. I think that was the last podcast I did. He's not banned on there as he is on TikTok. Here's other commenters saying users of Red Note are finding out what America would look like if they had not spent 30 trillion on Israel's wars. That's the 6 countries out of 7 that have been fucking overthrown. And they're showing you aerial shots of Chinese cities that look absolutely stunning. I'm sure it's not perfect. That's no one's saying it is, but there's a clear contrast, a clear difference. But here is one that made me absolutely fucking. This nearly made me cry. This is sweet. And it's one of the things that a lot of the Red Note users from America are discovering. Like, I bookmarked so many of these, but one of the things that they're discovering is that these people on these Chinese social media apps are nice. And whenever you read the terms and conditions, there was a girl translated all the terms and conditions, and she read them all out, and it was all about, don't be mean to people. You know, some people aren't just as expert as you are, and it might take them a couple of years to catch up. So give them the benefit of your expertise and be gentle and encourage them to blossom and all this sort of stuff. We should compare that to our. It's a fucking cesspit. You can't say anything. People jumping all over you. And I personally do blame fucking reality TV. I remember when this started with Big Brother and people and those talent shows in particular, that was the main one. People were trying, and it really broke my heart to see them getting put down, publicly shamed. You know, it was. I personally think that's where it came from. But here's this wee girl. Wait till you hear this. Yeah, this is a couple of minutes. It's really worth listening to. And this is common of what you're hearing American users. Now, I know there's an extra twist to this story. I hope I don't forget to tell you, but I'll play this to you first. Check it out. But this is common of what American users are saying. This is the welcome that we're getting on Red Note.
To all TikTok refugees and our foreign friends, you might have felt the welcoming atmosphere on Red Note here, and you may also have seen comments like, finally Li Hua got his letter back. Let me quickly explain what this means and why all Chinese people are so eager to talk to you all. There's a story behind this. You know, Chinese schooling is very tough, and back in the school years, most of us were kind of scared of English exams. And there was always this short essay question on almost every exam. It usually starts with something like, assume that you're Li Hua, a grade 12 student writing to your foreign pen pal, Peter, Sarah, or Jennifer, to introduce cuisines in your hometown, invite them to travel in China, or something random like that. We spent years playing the role of Li Hua, writing thousands of essays in exams and test prep sessions. But honestly, we all questioned it at some point. Where is this foreign friend? I don't even know anyone named Sarah or Mike. Why am I doing this? There's no way I will ever need to write to like a foreign friend like this in real life, right? You know, China has sometimes felt isolated because of geopolitical issues. Foreigners don't visit China as much as they visit other Asian countries like Japan, Korea, or Thailand. Most of us rarely had the chance to speak with foreigners, and many people just assume they'd forget all the English they learned after college anyways. So what was the point of writing hundreds and thousands of fake English letters to an imaginary friend? Then one day in January 2025, after writing letters to an imaginary pen pal and never getting anything back for 10 years, we finally got a real letter back from you guys. on Red Note. You're like Li Hua's pen pal finally coming to life.
Oh.
It feels magical.
Oh.
We never imagined people from the other side of the world could actually hear us and get to know us. We have been living in our own little Chinese internet bubble for so.
So you get the point. Oh my God, I'm going to cry. That's beautiful. That is fucking beautiful. And this is the experience a lot of people have been having on Red Note. I personally will never download it. I think TikTok was too retarded for me. I just can't fucking too much. But isn't that gorgeous? It's like our little Li Huang or whatever's Li Hua. He finally got his letter back by you being here. So thank you for being here. It's just extra sweet, and that's what people have been. A lot of America, they feel. So I'll play you a couple of. So here's a woman saying, the American, giving you the American perspective on pretty something there. So check this on her saying, I went to Red Note and it was adorable. Check it out.
America fucked up so bad. So I'm over here on Red Note, ni hao, and I'm like making friends with these amazing Chinese people. Their fashion, phenomenal. They're so kind and funny and smart, and their city is beautiful. And I'm starting to understand why our government wants us to stay far, far away from them. Because what the hell? Their nails, their manicures, 500 times better than what we get in the US. Their groceries, better, significantly cheaper. Their vehicles, which are illegal here, $15,000 for a brand new car. Technology that we couldn't even fathom here. They come in cool colors like pink and like all this stuff. Like we could never, right? Banned here. The phone technology they have, it's illegal here. And it's better. And it's cheaper. But what really got me is I saw this guy doing a home tour of his apartment with beautiful views, and it was just a one-bedroom apartment, but he was explaining how, unlike America, once he's paid his apartment off, it's his forever, like until he dies. There's no property tax. There's no property taxes. The government taking TikTok away, they never would have thought. They thought they would just shove us back to Instagram and all the other meta platforms. But Gen Z, I love you guys so much. You guys genuinely don't give a fuck. Like, no fucks. We're straight to Red Note. We're like, fuck you guys. We'll learn Mandarin. We're making friends. We're being welcomed. And dude, the conversations, they like feel bad for us. They feel bad for us. They feel bad for us. It's all a lie. It's all been a lie.
It's all been a fucking lie. And this is what the Yanks are fighting. This is what American people are fighting out. This is what they're fighting out. Now, I could literally play loads of these things. Bookmark this one, Miss American Lady, her observations. Another American girl, she was brilliant as well. And they're finding out that it's completely different from what they've been told. They realise that they've been lied to, and they realise that the difficulties that they've got in their lives, their own lives, it's what other people are experiencing is contrary to the propaganda that they've got. So these Americans are thinking, these grocery prices are really expensive and I can't afford to do this and I have to work 2 jobs and the rent's really high. Everywhere else must be worse because they're God's chosen people. America, land of the free, home of the brave, best place ever was and all that. And then they go on this social media app and they just, what the fuck? You're not putting this genie back in this bottle. It's not fucking happening. Extra added delicious bit of spice for you. Now, apparently, and I've only seen one or two things about this, Russian people heard about Americans talking with Chinese on the TikTok app. So they all decided to join. And now normal Russians, Chinese and Americans, people, normal civilians, not commentators, media, politicians, whatever, normal, they're all talking to each other and finding out that they all like each other. Americans are finding out that they've got the worst lives of all. And they're all making friends and they don't hate each other. And they're all You couldn't make this up. You couldn't fucking make it up. It's fantastic. I absolutely love it. I really hope to take and by the way, this is why they reactivated TikTok, because this initial mass migration, they call themselves TikTok refugees, hashtag TikTok refugees. This migration happened overnight, and the Red Note people were busy hiring extra staff to try and cope with it, and also adding new features that you could translate Mandarin into French and English and etc. etc. Much better. They was able to do it before, but been able to do it much better. So it's just brilliant. It's just brilliant. It represents a real kick in the fucking ass up to the oligarchy and to the establishment, and I love it. So there we go. That's my pod. I had more prepped for you. I wanted to talk about the Los Angeles fires and about musicians losing their stuff, and about Liban, the mermaid of Loch Ness, whose feast day it was yesterday. But I've gone well over. I'm over an hour and a bit here, so I'll keep these two stories because these won't lessen because of the day. So there we go. What do I think? Thanks everybody for listening, encouraging, sharing. I hope you enjoyed this. It's made the whole Deepseek thing is not going away. It's amazing. I've downloaded it onto my phone, but I couldn't actually register for an account because they got massive. They were getting attacked on digitally. I don't know what you call that. You know, when they swamp a service to try and shut it down. That's what happened to them. So yeah, where's my theme tune gone? Oh. Sorry, I'm just trying to find my theme tune here. I don't know what's happened. Ah. Don't know what happened there. Anyway, there we go. So thanks everybody. Don't forget, follow over on Patreon, YouTube, etc. All the places you get your things. And talk soon. Boo.